Hi guys, Luton here. So before the Battlefield Hardline beta comes out for you guys on the 3rd, a couple of us YouTube producers got to go to an event where we had a preview of the beta itself, and that's what we're going to be talking about today in this video. But before we get into that, I just want to tell you guys tomorrow morning, early on, 8 AM, 9 AM GMT, I'm going to have several videos for Hardline going up, so be sure to come and check the channel first thing tomorrow if you want to get a first look at some of that gameplay and some of my thoughts about the beta. Now this enabled us to see what was coming up in the beta, Hotwire, Heist, as well as actually test out some of those maps and how they play on there. Downtown is of course going to be on there as well. It also gave us a more finalized look at how the game actually handles in its close to completion phase, because of course we're in a second beta period now. This is a period for bug fixing, not for major changes. So this should be a close representation of what you're actually going to see in the final release. We also got to see some of the changes they have made to some of the game modes and the feedback they've been listening to from players and YouTube producers alike. Now, like with any game that comes along, there's going to be some positives and negatives. You're going to see these for yourselves. They're going to vary from person to person, but it's about really looking overall at how the game plays, the elements within it, and what we can really expect from the game. I think they're true in their assertion that it is a fast Battlefield. I'm not sure if I would say it was the fastest ever Battlefield, because you can have some pretty fast gameplay in Battlefield 4 for sure. But for example, with the Hotwire game mode, you really are pushed and focused and encouraged to play it out in a speedy way. The helicopters can be a great positional point to come down on. You've obviously got the kind of squad vehicles as well from the, enable you to respawn very much in a similar way to an Amtrak. So there's things going on the map like that that can enable your tactical gameplay. One of the things that definitely I focused on a lot was the fact that the weapons feel a lot more individualistic, and this is something that they've explained before now. So you're going to find yourself actually selecting weapons more carefully, not to mention the fact that you can indeed unlock those in pretty much any order now by purchasing the weapons. But at the event we got to try out Heist, we got to try out the Hotwire game mode on a couple of different maps, and it was very enjoyable. I had a really good time with it. Downtown, again, Hotwire plays out really good on Downtown. Very similar in its kind of feel though to Blood Money. Like, you're still racing around the streets chasing after one another. It's just that you're chasing after the cars and the objectives rather than someone carrying money. So it does have that kind of thing. It definitely has that kind of back and forth going on. I would say that both Hotwire and Blood Money as well, although we didn't play Blood Money at the event, I should highlight, but they both have that kind of feel of kind of obliteration, that back and forth of kind of grab and secure, and that's actually really good. Obliteration can be one of the most intense game modes on Battlefield 4, as people who will have joined my obliteration events will have seen. If you have two teams that are really focused against one another, it can be a really good sort of tug of war between the two teams, pushing back and forth and fighting really hard for it. The one thing though that is a worry is that with both those game modes, as with obliteration in Battlefield 4, if your teams are not reasonably balanced, it can be even more one-sided than something like Conquest, for example, because what happens is that one team literally just gets all the objectives, they keep control of them, and the other team will lose very, very quickly. This is a concern of mine with Battlefield Hardline, that some of these game modes do tend to be, they are expecting hard team play, but hard team play is something that is extremely scarce with Battlefield 4. It's scarce for the many reasons that I highlight on a regular basis. The fact that it's not marketed enough, the fact that it's not encouraged enough, the fact that the actual sort of mechanics themselves don't encourage this enough, and the scoring system doesn't encourage it either. We're still waiting, by the way, on the team play initiative from the CTE. We've heard very little about this. They did a nighttime event instead recently, so it seems like the team play initiative for Battlefield 4 seems to have been pushed back in favour of bringing forward things that people would like to see, like night maps, which for me is a really bad thing. It seems like they've kind of pushed that to one side, and it concerns me greatly. Going into Hardline, as I say, the game modes kind of very much encourage. You look at the other game modes as well, like the hostage situation one and things like this. Again, it's pushing for that really strong team play. So it's a concern. I have sort of highlighted that I think, the success of Battlefield Hardline rests about 70% on the community. Now, one thing that I will say, though, is that I have been obviously very worried about this, but I do feel optimistic. When I have spoken to the developers at these events, they do seem to sympathise, and they do seem to want to push that team play angle. My concern is just whether it's going to be marketed strongly enough within their actual sort of release of the game. When I tweeted at Battlefield, they had mentioned that yes, there's the possibility that there's going to be some kind of team play YouTube video series that they're putting together. Again, I don't know whether that's going to happen, but from what they said to me, they hinted at the fact they're like, well, wait and see. Whether that's just, you know, giving me what I want to hear, I don't know, but we'll have to wait and see for the release. But you know, these game modes, much with Blood Money on the first beta, there were some times where those game modes could be over in minutes. And if that's what we start to see, it's going to be very disappointing. But rest assured that when the game actually comes out in full, I will have my server, I will be pushing it for objectives, and I did actually speak to the devs about the possibility of highlighting my server as a place for people to come for objective play. So hopefully I will be able to create some kind of hub and semblance for objective play for people to come on. And I really hope that at the release of Battlefield Hardline, that will be the main place where I am at, so that I can actually get some strong, interesting games and not just, you know, one-sided steamrolls from one side or the other. I really hope that's not how it plays out. I really hope that people get some good, strong games, and that the game plays out in a really intense, brutal, battling manner, and that you get the sort of maximum feeling that you want to get from the game. But it really depends on the players. It also really depends on how the game is marketed. If they market the game more towards a sort of massive explosions, epic moments, trolling bullshit kind of crap, that's the kind of people that are going to be sort of attracted towards it more than the team play initiative. If they market it in a more team play aspect, I would hope that people would take that on board. But it's really down to them how they want to push it. It's their game after all. But I personally believe that a lot of Battlefield Hardline rests on just the players themselves, and if that's not sort of capitalized on, if that's not really encouraged, it's going to be a worrying trend of how that plays out. So judge it for yourself this week. We're going to see in the Battlefield Hardline public beta how the game plays out, how the mechanics play, how the weapons play, how the game modes play, and most importantly, how the players play. So let's see what happens this week, guys. There's going to be a lot of content coming from me. Be sure to be here tomorrow morning when I'm going to have several videos going up very early. So come and check that out tomorrow, guys. Check my channel first thing tomorrow morning, and I'll see you this week for Battlefield Hardline.